What are the effects of using different apertures when shooting in the studio? Stick with us through this episode of Photography 180 and we'll give you a quick rundown. So we're here in the studio with Bailey, who's modeling for us, and I'm going to give you a quick example of 6 different images using different apertures. We're going to keep the power settings in sync with those different apertures. So if I'm moving from 1.8 to 3.2, I have to move my light power accordingly in order to keep the exposure consistent on Bailey. Now, what we're going to recognize is that as I make those changes, the background will change in terms of the amount of light that's being recorded, and it will also change our depth of field. So you'll start to see the letters behind Bailey are going to start off being a little bit more blurred out as we're shooting at 1.8, and as we move through the different range of apertures, we're going to start to see they become a little bit more recognizable. So a quick rundown, we're going to go through these 6 images right now, and then you'll see the examples on the screen and the results of that. Again, the exposure on her is going to be consistent as long as I'm adjusting my light power exactly the same amount of stops as I'm adjusting my aperture. So we'll start at 1/160th of a second, f1.8. And the power here is at 1/256. Bailey, straight on to me. Perfect. So you'll see that first frame there. I'm going to go from 1.8 to 2.5, and accordingly, I'm going to bring the power the same number of stops. So now at 1/128th, and I'm at f2.5, and we're going to take that same shot again. Perfect. Excellent. So you should see the consistency of the exposure on her in terms of the light. The background's going to start getting a little bit darker, but it's also going to get a little bit more recognizable because our depth of field is expanding. So we're now at 3.5, 164. Perfect. I'm going to keep going, go to 5.0, 132. Perfect. And then 7.1 and 1/16. Perfect. Now, so when we put all those shots together for you, you're going to see consistent exposure on her, and then you'll see how the depth of field changes. Now, there's some debate on whether you can shoot with a wide open aperture, meaning f1.8, 1.4, even 1.2. The choice is yours. It's a creative choice. You have to be very careful. The subject you're photographing, if you're gonna get somebody's face on an angle, you might get one eye in focus, one eye out of focus. So these are decisions you have to make as the creator of the image. However, you can shoot groups of people using a wide open aperture. You just have to be conscious of how your particular lens will behave in terms of how far you are from your subject. Typically, the further you're away from your subjects, if you're shooting a group, you have more flexibility. Your depth of field increases even at wide open apertures. So keep that in mind. Study the effects of aperture yourselves. Take some test shots at home, see how it affects things. And I think it'll be helpful when you make your creative decisions in either your studio work or even out on location. So hope that's been helpful. Check out these examples, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week in another episode of Photography 180.